بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. السلام عليكم and welcome to Fiqh al-Muamalat online class. And today topic is a continuation of the previous discussion that we started on the prohibitions of Sharia and Islamic finance, and we have covered riba. And today we'll be talking about deception. Deception is one of the prohibitions of Sharia. You can call it as well fraud, you can call it cheating. It is known as well in Islamic terminology as tadlis. So deception basically is a kind of course it is divided into two. We call it Taghrir qawli, meaning the deceptions related to the statement, to the expression, and deceptions or Taghrir related to the actions. We call it Taghrir fi'li. So Taghrir qawli and Taghrir fi'li, meaning Taghrir related to the saying and Taghrir related to the actions and deeds. So for the first one, which is Taghrir qawli, or basically deceptions related to the statement, related to the saying, related to the expressions, is a kind of basically illustrations, the kind of misleading informations on the subject matter. Let's say, for example, you want to sell something, so you provide a kind of descriptions, illustrations of the product, but you are cheating in this kind of informations. You are deceiving the person. You are trying to mislead the customers or the buyer. You are to try to provide a informations, false informations, try in a way to convince the person to think that it is in his best interest to purchase this because of the features that this product has, because of the benefits that this product has. So you try to convince him through your skills of communication, skills of influencing the others to make decisions and purchase the item, but the item in fact is not within the interests of your clients, of your customers, or your buyer. You know in a fact that this is not within the interest of the buyer, but yet try to push basically the sales and convince him to buy it because it is within his interest. And this one is sometimes known in the Islamic banking or in the kaful industry as a mis-selling or misleading information. So basically it's a kind of mis-sales that later on the customers found that it is not in his interest to buy this. Then he would go back to the takaful operators because he got it, for example, from agents, or he goes back to the bank that try to negotiate back, try to surrender back the product because he was convinced to buy it, whereby he found that it is not within his interest. So this is the first one, is a kind of misleading informations, is a kind of cheating in descriptions of the product, is a kind of convincing the client to buy this product whereby it is not within his interest to buy it. Of course, from Sharia standpoint, this is a valid sales, despite that the person or the seller that is making a sinful in his actions because he wasn't honest with the buyer. He wasn't honest in providing the informations related to the product. He is not honest in a kind of convincing the purchaser to buy the product. So in that sense, he was not honest, but yet the sales transaction is regarded as a valid because Sharia assumes that the purchaser is competent enough to distinguish between what is useful for him, what is not, what kind of things that benefit him or not. So he's competent enough to assess the subject matter, assess the service, and make sound decision as a result of that. So this one we call it Taghrir qawli, sorry. Now the other one is a Taghrir fi'li, which is a kind of deceptions related to the actions or related to some adjustment or some modifications done on the subject matter. One of the examples that we can give is that if you have a mobile, which is a second hand, but what you do, you just change the cover and present it as a brand new product, then you increase the price. For example, a car, you repaint it, then you present it as a brand new car, and so on and so forth. So what you do some kind of adjustments on the cover, some adjustments on the face of the subject matter, and represent it as a brand new or something very new in order to increase the price. And when the customers basically look at the product, you will find it new, then you will endorse that kind of information that this is brand new, and you present it as a new product, and the purchaser think that he's buying a new product. This is considered as a defect, basically, if it is found later on, and the customer has the right to return back the purchase item because it is related to khayar al-aib, which is related to the defect, meaning that it has been cheated, not through a verbal communications, but it has been sold a different item. So it was some kind of fraud and cheating on the subject matter. This one, of course, if it is proven, it will impact the validity of the contract, and basically the purchaser has the option to reject back the contract. So let me move on to something which is related to the Islamic Financial Services Act, whereby they capture in the sections 136 under the business conduct this kind of actions, this kind of deceptions that could be performed by a banking or a banker or an officer working in the financial institutions, or possibly a takaful agents, whereby they possibly may do kind of mis-selling. So the business conduct in each product which has been offered or issued by Bank Negara, the Central Bank of Malaysia, in a different contract under the policy document, always there is a section there related to business conduct to try to endorse full informations, transparency, disclosure, honesty, and so on and so forth, in order to protect the consumer from cheating, manipulations, and fraud. And this one was also captured in the Islamic Financial Services Act under the business conduct in section 136, whereby a kind of penalties and punishments that goes to 5 years imprisonment, not exceeding 5 years, and or a fine no more than 10 millions or both. So this is a kind of punishments and penalty imposed by the central bank for this kind of mispresentations of the informations related to the banking product, whereby if it is proven, if it is upon basically convictions, basically he will be subject to imprisonment not exceeding to 5 years and a fine of 10 millions or both. Now, if you go back to Schedule 7 under the Islamic Financial Services Act, we will see that the Act has listed some prohibitions, which normally fall under the deceptions that we are talking about. It falls under the mispresentations of the fact. It's related to the mis-selling by the officers or by the bankers or by the agents. And if it is proven, it basically violates the Islamic Financial Services Act, and as a result of that, possible actions could be taken against that financial institutions. Let me briefly just read some of the points that have been captured in the prohibitions, and basically the list of prohibitions is up to 6 points. The first one, it says engaging in conduct that is misleading or deceptive or it's likely to mislead or deceive in relation to the natures, features, terms, or price of any financial services or product. So this is regarded as a prohibitions, actions that should not be performed, providing misleading information on the feature of the products, terms, conditions, pricing, and so on and so forth. Number two, inducing or attempting to induce a financial consumer to do or act or omit or do an act in relations to any financial services or product. And this one by doing what? By doing, number one, making statements, illustrations, promise, forecast, or comparison which is misleading, false, or deceptive. This one is not allowed. Also, dishonesty, omitting or providing material fact in a manner which is ambiguous. You also provide some kind of ambiguous information, not clear to the customers. Also, recklessly making any statements, illustrations, promise, forecast, or comparison which is misleading, false, or deception, meaning without being serious, without being committed, without being honest, just reckless information provided to the customers in product or services which may lead him to make decisions and purchase this product. This one is not allowed actions and listed under the prohibitions also in Schedule 7 in the Islamic Financial Services Act. Also, the other prohibitions, exerting undue pressure, influence, even you influence the customers is not allowed, or using or threatening to use harassments or physical force in relation to the provisions of any financial services or product to a financial consumer, or the payments for any financial services or product by a financial consumer. This one is not allowed. The other point highlighted is that demanding payments from financial consumer in any manner for unsolicited financial services or product, including threatening to bring legal proceedings unless the financial consumer has communicated his acceptance of the offer of such financial services product either early or in writing. The other prohibitions basically exerting undue pressures on a financial consumer to inquire any financial services or product as a conditions for inquiring another financial services or product. And the last point, number 6, colluding with any other person to fix or control the features or terms of any financial services or product to the detriment or any financial consumer except for any tariff or premium rates or policy terms which has been approved by the bank. So as you can see here, this is some just point reading. We don't have the time to stop at any point, but if we look at in overall, there are around 6 points that has been highlighted in the Schedule 7 under the Islamic Financial Services Act, and the point number 2 also highlighted 3 major points. But if you look at those 6 points, it's a kind of measurements to control the officer, to control the banker, to control the Takaful operators, agents, to communicate with the customers, with the clients in a very proper way, try to be honest in disclosing the informations, putting the fact of the product, put proper illustration, description of the product, then let the customers making decisions if within his interest or otherwise, but it's not allowed under the Sharia, and it is supported also by the Islamic Financial Services Act in sections 136 and also Schedule 7 that prohibits any kind of false informations, kind of pressures, kind of influence, misleading informations, misleading mis-sales, making a kind of convincing the clients to buy something which is not in his interest. All these are not allowed in Sharia. And again, it's about consumer protections, and also it's about disclosure of the informations. It's about free consent in making decisions. So basically the banker or the officer or the takaful operators or the takaful agents, when providing a policy, has to provide the product, provide the descriptions, provide the illustrations, showing the importance of the product, showing the benefits of the product, and try to communicate with the customers in a very honest manner, in a very honest way, and see whether this product or services is within the interest of the clients or otherwise, and after that the client make his decision. But don't push the product, don't push the sales, regardless whether it is within the interest of the client or not. That one is not consistent with the maqasid of the Sharia, but always look at a kind of protections and security of both parties, being the sellers or the buyers. So this is falls under what's so called a Taghrir in Islamic finance, or we call it also fraud, we call it tadlis, we call it cheating, which is not permissible and should be avoided in the business financial transactions. And it is very strongly addressed in the section 136 under the business conduct, and also it has been highlighted precisely what kind of prohibitions that should be avoided in the Schedule 7 of the same Act. With that, thank you very much, and see you inshallah in the coming sessions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.